Good morning and welcome in to the virtual campus, to those that are part of our global networking. We appreciate you. I'm Reginald Campbell with the House of Reconciliation. We're going to talk this morning about don't punish yourself. And this comes right back out of Galatians 5:1, where the word of the Lord is emphasized through the Apostle Paul when he's telling the believers, stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ has set you free. And sometimes Christ has set you free, but because we have not overcome our situations or overcome our pain, or sometimes have not gotten through the desert or the swamp, whatever phase of life you're in, it is human nature to turn around and begin to criticize themselves and feel as though they're not adequate, capable, or possible. And I come to tell you this morning that you have to believe in the process of God, but you also have to believe in you. And one of the critical things that you and I have to do is learn how to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. Because if not, you have to look at what's the other side. The other side is I don't want to punish myself. If I want to succeed, I have to quit talking negative to myself. And I have to stop other people from being negative in my zone. So for those that are writing, I want you to write a zone, because everything is not a one-term answer or a one-day issue. Sometimes things are a growing parasite in our lives and in our spirit. So we have to endure this. I think the Bible talks about the term long suffering. Sometimes we have to endure it. And what it is God is extracting some things out of us. But at the same time, he needs us to heal mentally, spiritually, and physically. And when we begin to heal, now he can begin to stitch us back together. But if I'm focused on punishing myself, because it's kind of like an avalanche. Once it starts, you and I sit back and say, man, when does it stop? Because it's like, it's this, it's that, it's the other, it's the car, it's the children, it's the neighbors, it's the refrigerator, it's something. And many times those things are life, because we haven't kept up the maintenance on them. And sometimes they are just situations. Sometimes we blow things out of proportion. And so then what we don't understand is we start deteriorating our temple. So when something becomes bigger than your devotion and your prayer time with God, how you start your day, how do you go back to God in the middle of your day, kind of the Job theory, then what happens is, if you and I are always burning, as they say, the candles on both ends of the stick, it dissolves. And so then we feel like we don't have enough in us, around us, and we feel like God is not listening. And pretty much that is the challenge of us not positioning ourselves. So because we're dealing with, one of the things that I like to share with you for the writers is we're dealing with silence. Because sometimes we think silence is strength. And silence is not suffering. Strength is not suffering in silence. And so there are a lot of things that you and I need to get out. We need to talk about. And sometimes we need to just go and be in a place where we can talk to ourselves, because this is critical. And so people say, well, what do you mean don't punish yourself? If you continue to punish yourself, how can you position yourself for what God has for you next? Because it's not going to come total package. You're going to have to read the blueprint. And sometimes we get frustrated because we see a thing and we grab a thing and we're not dissecting and learning the thing. We're not processing it. So one of the critical things, and it creates for you and I, is another word I want to give you this morning, creating complex problems. Sometimes we bring too many people into a situation that he or she does not have the skill set or the ability to assist us with. So when Paul uses the term and emphasizes believers' freedom, we have to pray that the word of God and the Spirit of God will free us from the devastation of what our mind and our illusion and our imagination and our hallucination will tell us. Because truly you have to understand, you will leave your body here on earth, but your spirit has to go somewhere. So sometimes there's a conflict. Paul talks about there's a war within my spirit. And sometimes the better side of you is warring with the side of you who wants to use excuses. So we either procrastinate, we stop, we don't press forward, we easily get distracted, and these things will not carry us to the finish line. So when we're punishing ourselves, we're not using the natural and the spiritual resources that God has given us. So how would it be in a natural context? Sometimes it's called comfort food. Things that do not work well with our bodies, things that do not and should not be in our bodies. It is almost what our bodies are attracted to. And so sometimes God is saying, I need you to spend time with me to think and to grow. And I need you to calm down and relax. And we're on all the energy drinks we can. We're on everything, social media that we can. And we're not putting the proper necessary spiritual ingredients in us. And neither are we putting in our bodies the ingredients and the vegetables and the fruits and the things we need. So then our body becomes a junkie. And when our body becomes a junkie, our mind becomes a junkie. And so now how can a junkie body and a junkie mind talk to an everlasting Father? Think about that. God does what he does for us to prepare because he says your body is a temple. And so then once we start to see this process, once we start to see the growth, now God has an expectation. And so he says, stand fast, because there are going to be things that will come after you, not because of where you are today, but how today will lead you into tomorrow. I'll say that again. Some things you're like, man, I don't have anything. I'm not there. Things are not going good. And so you're like, well, why should I continue to push or press or continue to fight? And it's because it's not about today. Today positions you for tomorrow. If the adversary can get you off of your purpose and take you away from your destiny, then he knows tomorrow will be just another dysfunctional day in your life. So just remember, whatever you're dealing with, however you're going through, it has a point and a purpose. So he says, stand fast. So you have to make your decision early that I'm going to press. This is what Paul talked about. I'm pressing toward a mark of a high price. If you keep degrading yourself and we allow people to keep devaluing us, and you never stand up for yourself spiritually, you never stand up for yourself naturally, then you will not be able to fulfill whatever God has for you. The other thing I said, I think it was maybe on Wednesday, freedom, don't negotiate. Stop trying to look to be accepted. Stop trying to look for all of a sudden for you to fit in. Light and darkness always are in contrast with each other. And if you're going to live your best life forward, it doesn't matter how you feel. It matters the energy that you put toward what you're trying to do. And so when you're trying to do that, then there will be those that will try to knock you down and question it because their light is dim. And dim lights try to dim shining lights. So you have to say, don't punish myself. I'm not going to punish myself with the negativity that comes to my mind. I'm not going to come and punish myself by what I thought and what I heard. And so here's the whole point about don't punish yourself. If you start and you continue to punish yourself, it takes you out of line and in the position that you need to be when God sends the revelation or opens the door. If you're somewhere tied up and entangled again with he said, she said, they said, and I'm still mad and this, that, and the other, then how can you go in? Real simple. Let me give you a scenario. The 5 wise and the 5 foolish. The 5 wise took enough to last, just in case. So you have to get that. When you're punishing yourself, you're going off of the scraps and you're going from what's behind you, not what's with you. And you're definitely not looking at what's ahead of you, because then you would waste your energy on things that can't support you. You would focus on the things that can lift you and preserve you. So when the bridegroom comes, whether it's that promotion, whether it's that home, whether it's that spiritual growth, whether it's your prayers being answered, if I am not body, mind, and spirit in sync with my Creator, then I'm punishing myself, because it's kind of like you're looking for a package and you have to sign for it. That's how it is with the Lord. You have to pay attention. He's not going to wait for you to decide today, I'm going to make up my mind. Okay, God could have had an answer for you on Thursday, but you were somewhere digging in the trash, and you were somewhere fooling with stuff that had no value, and you were somewhere focused on things that you could not solve, that God says, well, you're not ready to listen to me. And so then what happens is, this is how we begin to negotiate our freedom, because he says, stand fast. You have to make up your mind early. You have to make a choice. We can't have it both ways. I think there's a text that talks about, how can an individual serve two masters? How can you serve your goals and your ambition and then serve your anxiety and your lack of? So we have to figure out which way we're going to go. We have to either stay positive, and that doesn't mean that you're just on 100. No, sometimes you drop down to a -5, but you regenerate. This is what Titus talking about. You need to regenerate your spirit. And when you begin to generate your spirit, now here's a kind of a shot in the arm. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Lean not. And that's the issue. Too many things get in the way of our spiritual time, our prayer time, our devotion time, and just to commune with God, because we're focused on what has to be sent through revelation, and we think it can be fixed through humanity. Some things come through revelation. And so when it comes to revelation, if I'm not in position, it's like a cup. You want to fill the cup with water, but if the faucet is running and the cup is down the hall, nothing gets filled. The cup is in a place, but it's not in a place of receiving. And you have to, and part of us punishing ourselves, the door that you're looking at may not be the door that you go in. God will have another door. So where you're thinking it's going to come from, it may not come from that way. And if you and I are not willing to adjust to it, we'll never get through it. And sometimes when you're dealing with difficult things, you have to adjust in order to come through. You're looking at door number 1 when God may be positioning you to go through door number 12. You got to make up your mind. Do you want to go through the door, or you want to pick the door that you don't know what's behind it? If we allow God to lead, and this is why Proverbs 3 and 5 and 6 says, lean not to your own understanding. Because sometimes we get with people who are not getting with God. And sometimes the people that are not getting with God look like he or she or they are prospering in one phase of their life. And we have to look at the total life. What is their spiritual life? Why would I digest their information? Because if they're not a believer in God and they're not living a life that God will require us to live, are they really trying to help me? And I know there are things and people that help us naturally, and there are things that help us spiritually. But if it does not advance me wholeheartedly, sometimes people give you information to stunt your growth. So it says in Proverbs, lean not. Here's a tough word for all of us. Trust. When you have been wounded, and you have been broken, and you have been lied to, and you have been betrayed, it is tough to trust. That should have been my text today. It is tough to trust. So somebody sent out a shout out. It is tough to trust. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. It is tough to trust. But it says in Proverbs, lean not. Because sometimes you have to see the bad before you see the good. And sometimes the bad is so overwhelming, you think there's no good. And so then what I'm saying is many of us are punishing ourselves away from knowledge, away from understanding. Many are punishing ourselves away from the opportunity to be in concert with God. In other words, to be in tune with God. And so when we're in tune with God, then what happens is we begin to get in sync with God. And so we have to learn how to trust. It is tough to trust. So he says, lean not to your own understanding, but trust in the Lord. And here's the kicker: with all thine heart. All thine heart. What? Body, mind, spirit, decisions. Ask God, not necessarily, oh God, should I turn the light on? No, if you're in the dark, turn the light on. I mean, come on, have some common sense. But what he's saying literally to the believer is, trust me, build a relationship with me. Know that I'm not here to harm you. but I am here to prune you. There are things that I have to cut out of you because they would never grow with you and they will stagnate your growth in God. And that's tough. And then the things that are producing, and I know we're like, man, I got one thing I'm doing well, and he'll cut that. Because what it should do is re-energize, deepen the roots, and strengthen it. God doesn't prune you because he dislikes you. He prunes you because he sees your value. And God wants you to produce the kind of fruit that will last and have seeds for generations to come. Sometimes you have to understand you're not the fruit of the tree. You're the root of the tree. And so what you plant will get cut and will get pruned, but you take it personal. And you don't take it growth-wise. You don't see how it grows you in the future. So if you're in the dark, realize darkness today. But remember, weeping only endures for a night. We act like a dark season is forever. And sometimes the sun is out, but our head is still down. Sometimes the opportunity is there, but we're still looking at the problem. Sometimes the revelation is there, but we're still fussing about the issue. That's why I use the text, don't punish yourself. The second version would be, it's tough to trust. So what we have to do is gather ourselves. This is a time that you and I need to gather ourselves and ask ourselves, what's our values? Why do I feel like this is challenging? Why? I'm going to give you this for the writers. If you're dealing with tough times right now, it's because God has a call on you to go forward. And sometimes we feel like the bus is late. It's not late. We haven't finished looking at the map. And so God is calling you and I forward. But sometimes to go forward, it looks like there's a mountain. And then sometimes it looks like there's a valley. And then sometimes it looks like there's a storm. But you've forgotten God said that I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. And sometimes God holds things to build trust that you know when you get there and the sun is shining, you don't forget your partner with God to be able to get there. Now you can sustain and be there. God doesn't position you to be a failure. God positions you to be a light of him. God positions you to grow. God positions you to be a light to those who are seeking the same thing, trying to come out of darkness. So there has to be somewhere. So now here's the thing. The call that God has for us is forward. It is you and I who are stuck somewhere we don't belong anymore. The next part of this, I'm going to give you this, and I know we just got maybe a couple of minutes together. I am learning that part of what we have to do is get away from partial obedience. Sometimes we're only partial with God. We're part-time believers. We're part-time worshipers. We're part-time participants. Partial obedience never will complete the test. Partial obedience never will fulfill. This is why we have to submit to the will of God. It can't be three things that we're obedient in. And 35, we do what we want to do. We have to learn that. Partial obedience. The first one, a call forward. God is calling you forward. Quit getting hung up on what does not have value for your future. Say it again. We have to stop getting caught up on what does not have value for our future. Okay? So the word call forward. Number 2, partial obedience is unacceptable for me and for you. Partial obedience is sometimes making excuses rather than making a sacrifice. Number 3, I said this the other day, it will come in pieces. Your home did not just pop up on the ground. It comes in pieces. Those pieces are there significantly for you and I to trust God for the revelation of how to build it correctly this time. And not to be caught up in what we did and thinking, now I'm going to do it the same way. And kind of what the people of Israel did. They kept looking back, talking about old manna. And, well, you know, this was good. No, God is saying, I need you to expand. I'm not doing this to take you backwards. I'm developing you to go forward. And there's some things I have to get out of your behavior, your attitude. There's some things I have to get out of you. So when you go, you are a shining light. It's one thing to be hated because you're called. It's another thing to be hated because you're not prepared. I'll say that again. It's one thing to be hated because you're called. It's another thing to be hated because you're not prepared. And God wants his people prepared. Now, I'm going to give you this and we're going to close. God does not come to destroy us. So my brothers and sisters across the globe, we need to stop punishing ourselves. God does not come to destroy us. He comes to restore us. We have to ask ourselves, is this a test or have I broken my alignment with God? That is only a question you can answer. If it's a test, know God's going to pull you through. If we have broken the alignment, know that God gives us grace and mercy to go back and restore the relationship. So never have a problem with going back and restoring the relationship with God, because God's purpose and for us is a call to go forward. So as I leave you today, don't punish yourself. What God is calling for you and I to do is sometimes you don't get a chance to make peace with the past, but you've got to move on. Partial obedience is not acceptable. It will come in pieces, but God's counting on you. And yes, there's a responsibility and an expectation when it comes to God. Now, for those who want a little ice cream, I'll give you this. I won't become what hurts me. I will not become bitter. I will not become angry. I will not become the things and the words that hurt you and try to break you. That's when you're starting to stand fast and hold firm that I'm not going to be what my predecessor did. I'm not going to be how they treated me. I'm not going to respond to everybody else. That was then. Last but not least, don't let your mask become your cage. Don't let your facade become your cage. Because sometimes life is real. Well, life is always real. And I was thinking when I was coming down the hall, I'm going to give you this and I'm going, I was coming down the hall and the thought process was, sometime an event is easier than life. And I said, why? The event is for entertainment. Life is for building principles. So I said, wow, some people hide themselves in events. I encourage you, don't allow the mask of humanity to become your cage. God bless you. Thank all of you who've chimed in. Please like, share, and post. I will see, should be on the floor at the next service. I have another service to do. I should be at the floor about 10:15. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Thank you.